Greetings, folks. AnIolairGhorm here with a World of Warships replay, and this is part of the Frustration 101 series. This is myself in the premium Tier 7 Soviet destroyer, the Leningrad, and I'm division with Jimijaz in the premium Tier 7 U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Sims. We are in a domination match on North. We are middle tier. There is no aircraft carrier, which is nice, and there is only one radar ship on the opposing team. For upgrades and commander skills, I focus on supporting the gun systems, including IFHE, and I'll talk a little bit more later about why that is. And I also take the Speed Boost special upgrade to extend the action time of that consumable. So this being part of the Frustration 101 series means that it could be a win, it could be a loss, but either way, it requires an inordinate amount of effort on our part to keep us in the battle. So let me go back to the IFHE question. This is something that I've sort of been vacillating on over the last couple of months. I've been reading and watching the various arguments for and against, and also partially based on my own anecdotal experience. And the main argument against IFHE has always been that, one, it reduces the chance of fires, which is a major source of damage for these gunboats. It reduces it by 1%, and if you have a ship where the base fire chance is, let's say, only 6%, you've already reduced the fire chance overall for your ship by nearly 20%, from what it could be. The other argument against it is that there are too few armor thicknesses that really become vulnerable to the improved penetration due to the IFHE, and therefore, because of that specialization, it doesn't provide enough benefit to warrant taking the skill. Plus, it is a 4-point skill, so there's a lot you have to give up in order to take it. Now, the arguments for it are that while the fire chance for these guns are reduced by 1%, I believe the base fire percent is 8%, and with IFHE it comes down to 7%. That can be offset with both signals and with demolition expert. And then in particular at the middle tier, there are a lot of armor thicknesses, notably 25 and 27 millimeter armor thicknesses, that are now vulnerable to penetration due to the improved penetration of IFHE. So without IFHE, these guns have a penetration of 21 millimeters, which is enough for all superstructures on all ships, including battleships, but it's not enough to overwhelm the bows and sterns of most mid and high tier cruisers, which is often a common target for these gunboats. So with IFHE, these guns now have a penetration of 28 millimeters, which is enough to overmatch the vast majority of cruisers all the way up to tier 10 with a few exceptions. So since I have not, at least anecdotally, observed a lot of reduction in fire chance, in fact there I just set another fire on the Bismarck, and since I do fire on a lot of cruisers, it does seem like there is a lot of potential value in increasing the alpha damage through IFHE, so I have elected to retake it. But again, the only way to know for sure that the IFHE is really going to have the right value would be to do a scientific analysis based on a lot of data, and Wargaming has those data. We don't. I suppose I could collect something from the games I play, but that seems to be rather labor intensive as well. So right now I've gone with IFHE, and we'll see how that works out. So let's get to the gameplay. So our opening engagement here is at the Alpha Cap on North. The radar cruiser, the Cleveland, is here. We lost, the majority of our team is on this west side, although they're not that close to be able to support the cap very well. And we did lose the Cossack, the Allied Cossack that was on this flank. And so right now our team has some significant urgency to get a cap, because not only did we lose our Cossack, but we have a 4-ship deficit compared to the opposing team, and we do hold Bravo thanks to Jim persevering in that cap, but we don't have anything else, and we really need to get another source of points at this point. So that's why I've moved into the Alpha Cap. I'm obviously keeping the island between me and the Cleveland. The radar could come on at any point, and I'm also within range of his hydroacoustic search. So even if I could outlast whatever radar he puts up, and that would only last, less than 30 seconds, the hydroacoustic search lasts for a considerably longer amount of time. So that would be and make it very difficult for me to be able to continue to contest the gap. And there I do get detected. At this point, I'm assuming it's the radar. So I'm going to wait it out a little bit. And I have the Cleveland trying to creep forward here to put some fire on me. But my bigger threat is the secondaries from the opposing Bismarck. That's on the west side of Alpha. And that's where all these shells are coming in from right now. So there the radar goes down, but the Cleveland rightfully puts up his hydroacoustic search, and he's now lit me up again. And I have no choice, but I have to get out. So I've sent torpedoes, obviously, to try to discourage him from advancing forward. He knows well enough not to move forward and get taken out by my torpedoes, so he's going to back up, and I am not going to be able to get the Alpha cap in the end. The Bravo cap that we did take, again thanks to Jim, is now being taken by the opposing Moss. So we're basically losing the only source of points that we have. We have a huge ship deficit. We're now down by 5 ships, and we hold no caps, and we have fewer than 100 points. So if we lose 2 more ships without the opposing team losing any ships, the game will end right there. And obviously this would be very difficult. Now you can guess if, I have this replay, it's going to last longer than that. It's not going to end that quickly, but it's still going to require a lot of effort for us to try to claw this back. So I have abandoned Alpha because I just don't have enough support to finish off getting that cap. The opposing team still has the Cleveland there, and the rest of my team is kind of milling around north of Bravo, so I've elected to sort of back off, try to put some fire on these other ships that are trying to move into Bravo, and at least try to hold back part of the east flank that is collapsing. If took a quick glimpse over there, you can see the opposing Bismarck is actually almost dead. The Allied Bayern, I'm thinking he's probably been firing HE at the Bismarck this whole time, because the Bayern does sink the Bismarck through fire damage. So now that main capital ship that was on the east flank, the battleship specifically, has been on the west flank, excuse me, has been eliminated. I've now elected to drive back towards Alpha to try to retake the cap, because the opposing Cleveland doesn't have that much health. And one of the things that these Soviet destroyers are very good at is, so long as they keep their opponents at distance, between their speed and their maneuvering, they can take down ships like this without too much difficulty. Now, I'm a little closer to the Cleveland than I probably should be. Ideally, I would be about 10 kilometers away or more, but I'm going to take whatever chances I can. I'm firing AP here because the 130 millimeter AP from these destroyers on broadside cruisers, it can be very effective. In fact, there's going to be a point late in the battle where I'm going to do this again, and in fact, an ally in my team is going to be telling me to switch to HE when I in fact know that I'm going to get more damage done through AP than with HE. Fortunately, our allied Mogami was heads up and put a bunch of AP rounds into the side of the opposing Cleveland. Unfortunately, he then just goes down to the Atago, but that has now completely freed up the Alpha cap for us to be able to go in and take that cap. I'm going to put fire on the opposing Atago as I head towards the Alpha cap. Once I get to the Alpha cap, my intention is to get into concealment through a smoke screen and be able to fire on ships while I work on taking the Alpha cap. Right now we have a 4-ship deficit. We have a 600-point deficit in the game, and so obviously again things are looking very dicey. Here we get a view of the opposing Jervis, and Jim and I are now changing our focus to this destroyer. destroyer is using a fair amount of throttling. I think he wanted to get into concealment through a smoke and then decided that wasn't working, so he sped up again. Trying to get the last couple of shells in. Jim is firing on him as well. I can't hit him anymore because of the island, but Jim is able to reach the Jervis and is able to sink him. So now we've brought the ship deficit down to 2. I am in Alpha now, and I have now smoked up. And now I'm going to be working on this opposing Atago that is bearing down on Jim. Jim's going to be in trouble here because the Atago I expect is going to have hydroacoustic search and is going to be able to detect Jim and will be able to attack him quite freely. And that will, in fact, I think he does sink Jim in the end. Sending torps out here on the opposing hood. I did warn Jim that I was sending them. He was in relatively close proximity to them. We did lose our Leon to the hood. The Leon was on the south side of Bravo. I finally have secured the Alpha cap. I'm sorry, not the Bravo cap. And here we see the opposing Benson. And we're able to take him down, and so now we have a 2-ship deficit. Now, I had thought at this point, okay, surely the Benson had detected my torpedoes. There's no way the hood's going to take any of my torpedoes, but for whatever reason, he ends up taking 4 of my torpedoes, all with flooding, almost finishes him off. And so now I'm in a desperate, sense to get him sunk. Here I've gotten too close to the opposing Dallas, and we'll see him again here at the end of the battle. So I've got to turn away here. And I really am desperate now to get the hood down. I know that he's taking flooding. If I can get a fire on him, he's likely doomed. So I'm calling target on him. I really want the team to... We absolutely have to get things sunk. Jim is already gone. We're just down to myself and an allied Bayern against 5 ships. And there I earned high caliber. And I think I do get another fire. Or maybe I don't get another fire. It may be that the Bayern gets a hit on him and almost reduces him to 0. But here I am just desperately trying to get the last few hit points down on this battleship. Places where my guns are shattering or my shells are shattering are on his turrets. Get him down to just a few hundred hit points. Our Bayern takes out the Atago. So now it's a 4-on-2. And there I sink the hood. And now it's 3-on-2. But now the next frustration is we have a full health Normandy to contend with. I have a Bayern that has barely maybe 20% of his health. Myself at about half health. The only way that I can put enough damage out fast enough to take the Normandy is with a torpedo strike. So I've got to get in close enough that I can send torpedoes. The other problem I have, though, is that the Bayern is between me and the Normandy, and so I run a huge risk, obviously, if I torpedo, that I could end up hitting the battleship. So my goal here is to get a fire going on the Normandy and force him to use damage control so that if I can get some torpedoes on him, there I set a second fire on him. So if I can get him to use damage control, then if I get him with torpedoes and I get at least one flooding, we have a good chance of being able to sink him. I think he's concentrating his effort on the Bayern. I am being targeted, but I think, in fact, here's where the Moss shows up. Change my focus temporarily to the Moss to try to keep him from contesting Alpha, because again, we still need the points to come in, at least to keep them from advancing faster to 1,000 points. And here's where I make my turn and send my torpedoes. So I'm in a position I can send these torpedoes without hitting the Bayern. I'm going to cross over behind the Bayern, let him keep working the Normandy, and then I'm going to head down to Alpha to head off the Moss and try to get the Moss out of the game as well. So the Normandy makes a mistake. He makes a turn, turns right into my torpedoes, and he takes 2, and we're able to take him down. Now it's even on the ships, but obviously we still have a huge point deficit. And the best we can do here, what we have to do is we have to sink all ships. So the Moss has shown up again. Moss is a very good gunboat, so but I have no choice but to fire on him. Plus he's cutting away, which at least in terms of gunning situations, you do want to kite away because it's generally harder to hit ships that are sailing away from you than when they're sailing towards you. And I do have a couple of salvos here that are a little frustrating that I don't land on him, but I am able to finish off the Moss. Now I need to turn around and focus on the Dallas, which is still at about 2/3 health, and our Byron is very low health. Now, I know from my own experience with the Dallas has very good DPM, it has a very good fire chance, and with the Byron being relatively low health, and assuming that this Dallas has IFHE, he's going to be able to put out a lot of damage on the Byron very quickly. And sure enough, when I look over, the Byron is already down to almost 1,000 hit points, and he's already burning, so I know he's dead. And so it's just me and the Dallas. This is where I switch to AP because I know the Dallas is going to be broadside to me, and that's going to be the fastest way generally for me to put damage into the cruiser, because they're down to only 935 points with 2 caps. So I've got to sink this ship really fast. And you'll see in chat that somebody will say, oh, use HE. And I'm like, if he's broadside to me, I'm going to do more damage if I can get AP pens in on him reliably, and even if I'm able to Citadel. The problem is that right now is I'm too close to the Dallas. Normally, if I'm 10 or more kilometers away, he would have a lot more difficulty hitting me reliably. But I'm simply too close. He almost takes me down. Still trying to fire on him, but it's a fruitless effort because at this point, they're just too close to winning, and he has too many hit points remaining for me to be able to sink him in before they hit 1,000 points. And that's exactly what happens. I do earn Confederate as a little bit of consolation, but the match ends and we lose what could have been a terrific come-from-behind win. So we really tried, but it wasn't to be in the end. So I hope you enjoyed the commentary and the replay. Please do leave your comments below. And as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.